good afternoon. We're going to continue our look through the Gospel of Mark. Today we're going to see how Jesus will do miracles through us. And we're looking at the feeding of the 5,000. And it was great to spend some time with Nick this morning. We went up to Loch Lomond. And Nick's been to the Sea of Galilee.
Yeah.
And he's saying that Loch Lomond looks quite like the Sea of Galilee. So that's good. Certainly closer than the Sea of Galilee. So yeah, that's good. So we are now at the final year of Jesus' life, the final year of his ministry. Some sources say spring AD 29. Some Bible authorities. And it certainly would seem to be early spring because he takes the boat with his disciples, the crowds come to him and they sit down on nice fresh grass. And apparently around the Sea of Galilee, that's the only time you get nice fresh green grass to sit on. Early spring, so like now, early spring, and Loch Lomond, like the Sea of Galilee. So that's good. And we're looking in Mark chapter 6 from verse 30. The disciples have just come back from the success of their mini mission, and they've come back, and let's read on from verse 30. And I've got it on my phone somewhere. So it says, the apostles gathered round Jesus and reported to him all they had done and taught. Then, because so many people were coming and going, they did not even have a chance to eat, he said to them, "Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest." So they went away by themselves in a boat to a solitary place. But many who saw them leaving recognised them and ran on foot from all the towns and got there ahead of them. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. So he began teaching them many things. So I'll stop there now. Here we see like the thoughtfulness of Jesus. We see his compassion. Compassion in the Greek word means literally to feel it in his bowels. That kind of comes across as being a bit scatological for us, but it really means like a deep, like visceral kind of feeling of compassion and love for other people, deep down. And of course, Jesus is God's Son, and God is about mercy. In Ephesians 2, verse 4, it says, "But because of his great love for us, God, who is rich in mercy, made us alive with Christ, even when we were dead in transgressions. It is by grace you have been saved." So we see Jesus feeling compassion. He feels compassion for his disciples. You've been away, you need rest. Come, let's spend time together and get some rest. But he also feels compassion for the wider people as well. When he sees their need, don't know if maybe they managed to grab something to eat on the boat, but as soon as they arrive on the shore, then the crowd's there again. But Jesus alters his apparent schedule. He makes time for these people that have need. And we also see how important it was for him to teach them. He saw that the answer to their needs were actually his teaching. That's what he most had to offer people. And that's good to consider, even with all the sort of signs and wonders that were going on with Jesus, that what he really thought they needed most was the gospel, was his teaching, was his word. So the challenge is for us, seeing Jesus' compassion, seeing how he helps people, how do we feel other people's need in our lives? How do we adjust our schedule for other people when things come up? What's our heart? We all have busy lives, and we all plan, I think, to do some great things in our lives. But what if other people's needs sort of interfere with that schedule? What's our heart like? And how prepared are we to share God's word with people, to meet their needs? Because we can see from Jesus' example, that is what he saw was the best answer to their needs, to share his Father's word with them. Let's read on in verse 35 to 37. Have I got that? Yeah, 35 to 37. By this time, it was late in the day. So his disciples came to him. "This is a remote place," they said, "and it's already very late. Send the people away so that they can go to the surrounding countryside and villages and buy themselves something to eat." But he answered, "You give them something to eat." They said to him, "That would take more than half a year's wages. Are we to go and spend that much on bread and give it to them to eat?" So, a lot of people have come. It's got late. They're hungry. The disciples seem to make quite a reasonable point. It's quite hard to imagine what feeding that number of people really looks like. And the account says it's 5,000 men. So, obviously, you've got women, you've got children, perhaps there as well. Maybe it's 10,000, maybe it's over 10,000 people that are there. I was thinking how to visualise this, and there is actually a charity which looks to highlight food wastage around the world, and it organises Feed the 5,000 events. There was one in Trafalgar Square recently, and one in New York. So there's some photos from that. This is Feeding the 5,000 in the modern day. How well you can see that. So I think there's a big one of the big pans they were making. I think they generally make like vegetable curry and stuff for people. And it's one of the big pans they needed. I think that's in the States. And then that's Trafalgar Square in London. Just some of the people. That's not 5,000 people just in that photo. It's a lot of people, but it's not everybody that they fed at their event. And the reports that talk about, huge numbers of cooks and things working in 4-hour shifts, preparing the vegetables, preparing everything, many days before, to just prepare this one meal for 5,000 people. This is maybe understandable why the apostles came to Jesus and said, you've got to send these people away. We can't feed them. Maybe there was a fear amongst the apostles that there'd be a riot. It's possible. We see later on in the account that to feed them, they sat them down in groups. So like when they had the food, it was a good way of controlling the crowd perhaps, to make them sit on the ground and then distribute the food. Otherwise, everyone comes at you at once and you have a riot. It seems reasonable, but it's actually quite unreasonable in a way, because they're in the middle of nowhere. It's first century Palestine. There aren't, food retailers and outlets there. What are they going to go and do? They're going to go and bother the nearby villages? And after the experience of being taught by Jesus, it's not going to be a good end to the day. Them having to go off and forage for themselves in the fields and stuff like that. It's not matching the love that's in Jesus' teaching with meeting their actual physical needs here and now. So, in a way, the disciples' request is unreasonable. But what is the alternative? Well, Jesus works a miracle. So, looking on in verse 38 to 44. It says, "How many loaves do you have?" he asked. "Go and see." When they found out, they said, 5 and 2 fish. Then Jesus directed them to have all the people sit down in groups on the green grass. The green grass, you see. So they sat down in groups of hundreds and fifties. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to his disciples to distribute to the people. He also divided the 2 fish among them all. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces of bread and fish. The number of men who had eaten was 5,000. So hopefully the men left something for the women and children. You know, Jesus worked an amazing miracle here. And actually appreciate the heart of the disciples to do something foolish. You know, when they started going round, has anyone got any food? We've not got much of a plan here. They were going out on a limb, but they were being obedient to Jesus. They were taking a step of faith in Jesus. It's hard to go and, you know, look out of place, to go against maybe what the norm is, to step out of line in society. I heard a joke this week actually about from an American comedian who now lives in Britain, and he was asked, you know, what's the difference between American culture and British culture? And he said, in America, your neighbour, if he buys a new Rolls Royce, he'll come home and he'll park it on his driveway, and you'll look at that Rolls Royce and say, I want one of those, I aspire to one of those. In Britain, when your neighbour buys a new Rolls Royce and drives it to his driveway next door to you, you will look at him and want him to die in a fiery accident. There is something, perhaps, about our culture where people look and they're just, yeah, okay, I'm just wanting you to have a bit of a fall here. You're doing something interesting, you're doing something different, but let's see how far you get. And perhaps the crowd in Palestine was like this because did they really only have, you know, out of all of them, none of them had brought any food? I don't know. And John says, in his account, it's 5 loaves and 2 fish, but it's from a small boy, it's from a little boy that gives it, and it's very humble stuff. It's barley loaves, it's like stuff that we don't eat anymore because we've got better things to eat, you know. Just barley loaves and 2 fish. That's the heart of maybe the child to offer something, but you know, there's this thing that the disciples were going out on a limb here. So Jesus works a miracle through the disciples' faith and through the meanest of resources. I think there's a parallel with us, isn't there? He works through us, through our sometimes meanest faith and through our meanest resources that we have. And the baskets, interestingly enough, is kophonos in the Greek. And there's like 2 types of baskets in the New Testament. There's a big one's like that Paul was let down in, down to escape from Damascus. He was put in a basket and was let down. That's not kophonos. Kophonos are like rucksacks. They're like big enough, quite large. One man carries them and you put them on your back. So they're like rucksacks. So when the disciples collected the remnants here, and it would seem like we're talking about the 12 apostles here in this occasion, then they collected enough that each one could carry the miracle on their back. They had this physical reminder of just how much Jesus had worked a miracle through them. Jesus works amazing things through us. Jesus will work miracles through us too. Sometimes these miracles are, wow, flashy, grandstanding things. Sometimes they may be more just obvious to ourselves and people that know us and people that know how we are maybe without God. I'm a nurse, and part of my job is to coordinate the student nurses on my ward, so I mentor quite a lot of student nurses, probably about 20 over the last few years. And it's quite ironic really, because out of these 20 of my experience in the last few years, none of the nursing students have been as bad as I was as a nursing student. Really, I was terrible. I started doing my nursing course before I became a Christian. I was using some recreational drugs and things. I didn't realise at the time, but I was kind of still under the influence of drugs, and I'd be doing my placements, which is completely unprofessional, obviously. Some of my placements, I would phone my mentor up and say, I'd arrange to come in, certain days during the week. Oh, I'm not coming in today. Oh, I should say, well, how about coming tomorrow? No, I can't come in tomorrow. I'm not coming in this week. I'll come in next week. If a nursing student did that to me now, I'd be having meetings with the university. I'd be I definitely needed help. Sometimes I think, we try our best with the students, and I just hope that we can share what we've done wrong in the past and help them not to do the same mistakes, or somehow not put them off nursing completely when they spend time working with us. But the students this week that we're finishing up, I had a meeting with them, and they said, this has been our best placement. Myself and my colleagues really inspired them. Some of them want to come back and work as nurses in our speciality. They said, you don't understand, people, you like spending time with us, you want to show us things, you want to let us do things, you encourage us. And I thought, this is amazing, how far has God brought me from being basically a student that should fail to now teaching other, nursing students. And it is through God. Through God's Spirit working in me, and also in other people in my life, helping me, other disciples helping me. And I know for all of you that God has been doing great things in your lives. In your careers, in your studies, sharing the gospel with people, changing people's lives, being part of that. Loving those closest to us in a better way, more deeply. God works the same miracles through us as Jesus was empowering the disciples to do, as we read about in the New Testament. And I think that this is the purpose of this miracle for Jesus. This was the reason why he did it. Sure, he did meet this need for the crowd, but the apostles, I'm sure they thought about this when in Acts 2 at Pentecost, they were the ones sharing the word with thousands of people, feeding thousands of people with the word. Later on in Acts, they'd seen the gospel spread out to hundreds of thousands of people. They were thinking, yes, Jesus has enabled us to perform this miracle, and has involved us in him performing this miracle. I think they must have thought back to just this situation. They'd been away on mission, and they'd had a great time seeing God work, but then they'd been faced with a difficult situation. And this challenge had come up. They maybe thought back to this and how they needed to persevere in faith. And this section in Mark 6, there's different challenges associated with following Jesus. Jesus experiences rejection in his hometown. There's talk about John the Baptist, being killed because he was following God's will. There's this situation where, the success of the gospel brings its own challenges sometimes. After this, we'll be looking at, the storm that the disciples experience. And again, their faith is challenged by this sort of sudden emotional upset in their lives. How easy they kind of forget what has happened in their lives before, and it can all be about the current problem. I'm sure the apostles will have thought back to this in their later times and drawn great strength from it and great inspiration. That for us to actually, in the face of some difficult emotions sometimes, to hold on to Jesus' power and the fact of Jesus' power, no matter what we're feeling about things. Because the apostles had this great commission, didn't they, in Matthew 28, that they were to teach us everything that Jesus had taught them. So this lesson is for us as much as it is for the apostles. So, we're all at different levels of seeking Jesus in our lives. Maybe we are looking at the evidence for Jesus and we find it compelling to want to follow Jesus, but it's challenging to see the application of that power in every aspect of our everyday life. But the disciples we see here, they did, for all their kind of questioning, they did go to Jesus. They asked a question. They made the wrong suggestion, but then they listened to Jesus and they followed. They took that step of faith. Maybe we feel like we're long in the tooth as disciples, that we've seen Jesus' power in the past. We know Jesus has worked miracles through us in the past, but maybe we feel that Jesus is retired. There are overwhelming practicalities in our life, like feeding the crowd, feeding the family perhaps, or studying, or work, or following Partick Thistle. It's not too challenging at the moment. But, maybe Jesus has put us in some difficult situations, not to withdraw and figure out a way out of these things ourselves, but to actually take further steps of faith and to think about what does Jesus want from me in this situation? What does his teaching say? What does the Spirit lead me to do in this situation? And to take steps of faith. The apostles did listen and put into practice what Jesus said. So Jesus does want to do miracles through us. Jesus will do miracles through us. He wants to share his mercy with other people as well as us. So let's have faith and let Jesus guide our life. Thank you.